Good morning and welcome to another absolutely exquisite dawn here in South Africa. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have the incredible Wandering Wildebeest on camera with me. Migrating Wildebeest. I do apologize, Vim. And remember, this is 100% live. We are seeing what's out and about this morning. We're going to have a quick look where the lions were. And of course, if we happen to stumble on any spotted friends, it will be wonderful. So we're just driving nice and slowly now that it's light enough for us to see tracks. And so far, all we've seen is hyena tracks. And the hyenas were very vocal last night. Lots of whooping. Ooh. Also, remember, if you have any questions for us, please use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or just pop it on any of the feeds you might be viewing it on. Now, of course, I'm going to keep up my search, and let's go across to someone who's going to be crowing about in the morning, Taylor McCurdy.
Well, we hopefully will be joining you shortly in the area to try and find those lions, but there were some impala just disappearing into camp. I think they're heading to go get some breakfast. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me, I have the pleasure, Jean-Dre is back. Goodness, been a long time, hey? Ages. Now, we are, of course, on a bushwalk this morning. We just stepped out of camp, and we basically just decided where we will be walking today, and that will include going towards Mamba Road. I'm not sure where Steve had those lions moving about last night. I don't think they were moving around too much from their last spot, and I didn't hear any roars throughout the night. So we'll see how that sort of goes. Oh, I love morning bushwalks because your shoes get so wet. It's so lovely. Very, very nice. Looking forward to that. Lots of dew down on the ground. Hopefully we'll see lots of insects and things along the way. Well, that's the idea anyway. Some grasshoppers. Been seeing lots of rain locusts around at the moment, so I'd like to put one of those on camera if they sit still for long enough, because that's always the other thing we're trying to deal with. But there's still a third person out on safari today. I bet you guessed it. His name also starts with T. It's Tristan.
Indeed it does, Taylor. So very similar to, well, how your name starts. So as Taylor mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Craig, aka the Batman, and we are currently just kind of meandering down via Taylor access in the hope that we can maybe pick up some tracks for the Matumba males or for Hukumari or Shadulu. So it's a kind of trifecta that we're looking for at the moment, but we'll try and see what happens. So far, no sign of anything. We're quite close to where those Matumba males were yesterday. Hopefully we'll maybe pick up something. I'm hoping they didn't push further west, deeper into the kind of Simambili and Arathusa area. But let's have a look and see. Maybe we'll get lucky and find something. What is interesting is that there's a lot of hyena tracks that are going out of this, coming down the road. So I want to just quickly check where they go. I wonder if maybe this is for one of the females that has been denning. Anyway, let's send you across to Brent, who's found the first animal for the morning.
Well, it's not something we've been seeing too much of. And I wonder if he had a hard night with the Nkuhuma ladies around. And he's a buffalo bull. He's a bit nervous. And he's tried to move away from us, so we're not going to push him too much. And before the drought, we used to have many buffalo bulls around this area, and between the lions and the drought, it removed the vast majority of them. So it's quite nice to see an old Dugger boy back. He's all on his own, it looks like. He doesn't have a little group of buffalo bulls. And we've got the red-billed oxpeckers doing their job, looking for ticks. Oh, in the air we go. And you can see he's wet. He was lying in a puddle or pan when we found him. Indeed, Octo, indeed. This buffalo does look very unimpressed. And you should have seen how unimpressed he was when we woke him up from his slumber in the pan as we came round the corner. And he's keeping a very wary eye upon us. And he doesn't want to come out into the open. He's feeling quite safe behind those thick thorns. Now, I'm hoping the Nkuhuma ladies will be on his trail, so let's go see if they are. Bye-bye, Buff. Beware. There's lions about. Oh, we've got a question from a very good person, I'm assuming, because the person's name is Brent. Hello, Brent. I'm Brent. And Brent is wondering, what is the buffalo's lifespan? It's in the wild, it's about 12 to 15 years. That's it. In captivity, they can live a bit longer, but in the wild, 12 to 15 years only. And again, like most animals out here, it's very seldom that they'll die of old age. They'll normally get retired by some form of predator. Lions are the main culprits, and sometimes hyenas as well. See, I got myself a nice sweet piece of panicum for the morning. Okay. Now, no tracks yet of the lions. Now, they were around this area last night, but Steve said they were heading towards Mumba Road, so that's where we're going to toddle off to. So far, just lots of hyena tracks. Now, one of the animals you've got to be most careful of on foot is that old buffalo bull. So let's go see what Taylor thinks about buffalo being back on Djuma.
We all know what I think of the buffalo. I don't like them on foot because they try to kill me and chase after me and do all these ridiculous things. So I typically try and avoid them when I can. And we're just on a walk at the moment, just trying to get into a decent area. It's a bit early for insects and things to be flying around. There's just been the odd fly every now and then. So we're going to just keep on heading around. So if you've got any questions for me as we walk around, remember you can hashtag Safari Live. Now, Jane, the elegant grasshoppers, yeah, I think I've seen a couple of them. Not too many. They were more prominent a couple of weeks back. You know what I have been seeing a lot of is what I mentioned earlier, is the rain locust. There's so many of them around at the moment, but none just yet. The afternoon bushwalks have actually found a best for insects, just because it warms up. There was a little moth, but it's not flown away. The morning, it's a bit tough in terms of trying to find smaller critters. Even though it is quite humid today, they just haven't quite woken up. And remember, they will hide away. So they'll sit on the undersides of leaves. So to try and actually find something is very difficult. There's a cricket you can come and have a look at. It's a very small little cricket just in the center. There it is, on that leaf. Oh, it's just going on the underside now. Probably, I don't think you're going to be able to see it. It's just gone on the other side of that leaf now. It's trying to hide away from us. Obviously, we are quite big and scary, as you can imagine. Something towering over like this would send that insect into, well, panic mode, trying to escape and to move away. Which is good, because if that was a bird, it would have been eaten by now. But luckily, no crickets for us, even though they're eaten all over the world. Particularly in Indonesia. They seem to be a delicious snack. I'm okay though. I'll wait for breakfast. Probably wait for the bacon and the eggs or the kiwi and mango, whatever will be served today. So we just have to kind of wait for the sun to come through. They'll then start to point out some of the spider webs with that nice golden light. If we get golden, maybe in a little bit. Quite a bit of clouds that have built up. Can you believe it? And last night, at about 8:30 in the evening, there was not a single cloud in the sky. From that very dramatic sort of dark blue grey that we had covering the sky to absolutely nothing and just the twinkling of all the stars, which was really quite beautiful. But now, I think we're going to be in for an absolute scorcher of a day. Right, anyways, off you go to Tristan to see if he's any closer. I think he was heading to Chitwa, or perhaps he's still trying to see if those lions have crossed in.
No, not at this stage. I'm not Taylor. I'm on the northwestern boundary looking for any sign of the Matimba males. So I'm nowhere near Chitwa. In fact, I'm on the opposite side of the reserve as we speak. Now, what I'm trying to see is if there's any tracks coming back to Djuma. OTC, the Matimba males appeared out of absolutely nowhere yesterday. So they came from Djuma, walked through Djuma. We didn't see them on Djuma, and then they went into Samambili and were lying up about 50 meters from the boundary. Now, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'll come back outside, but it doesn't seem that that's going to be the case. It seems as though they must have gone further west and deeper into Samambili itself. Now, this road is very bumpy, so I do apologize about the bump in the road and that the camera is wobbling all over the place. It's not Craig having too much coffee this morning. In fact, Craig's a tea man like I am, so he seems to be just fine. Now, we're probably going to pull off shortly because I just don't really like this road very much, but it's a necessary evil when you're checking for a track crossing into your property, so we're just going to probably leave it where it is, and then we'll kind of go onto the power lines and then head south on Impala Plain side, just in case they cut sort of southwards. Nothing coming in here, which is interesting. So just having a double check that if there's anything kind of coming in or out. No sign for any leopard tracks either, which I was hoping for as well. I was hoping maybe we'd find something for, like I say, Shadulu or even maybe Komuri as well, because he's been a bit scarce of late. No one's really seen too much of him, so that's what we were kind of hoping. Let's see. Nope, nothing here, so definitely haven't come into our side. I think they must have pushed further west and gone away from where we are, and I wonder if maybe they are being sort of moving away from any particular danger. I wonder if there's maybe some other males that are around. Maybe the Vaka boys have pushed them this way. Remember that the Matimbas, even though they were a force to be reckoned with back in the day, are now, well, one in particular is emaciated and old and really not looking good at all, much like the Majingalan male. And the other one seemed to look quite healthy. He's got a little bit of a full belly, so it seems as though he must have found food somewhere yesterday or the night before. And so, you know, they're not going to be fighting fit. They're going to be males that are pretty much nomadic and on the run and just trying to stay clear of any of the other males. And if they hear males roaring, they're going to go the opposite direction altogether. So I wonder if it's because the Birmingham males are kind of doing a clean sweep of the Sabi sands at the moment that we've just seen a Majinganan and Matimbas, the old sort of statesmen, arriving back up in an area that they used to roam and haven't been in many, many months. So it's an interesting kind of thing how nature works. You often think to yourself that these animals, once they kind of move out of an area and become territorially dominant somewhere else, that there's not a chance that they'll come back. But as we've seen with both coalitions, they've both headed back to an area that they once dominated just to try and sort of seek out, I don't know, either some sort of protection or maybe even just try to find some sort of food that can allow them to kind of grow and become a little bit more sort of, or get a little bit better. But it's obviously very difficult when they get to that condition because hunting becomes almost impossible for them, and so they become scavengers more than they actually are anybody that can sort of, or any lion that can actually hunt. Catbrag, and a lion's considered an adult from probably about 4 years old. That's when they start mating as females, and as males, that's when they, start getting sort of separated and start kind of moving out and trying to establish themselves as, dominant individuals. So that's normally around the age that you would start to consider them as adults. The male might be a little bit older because of the fact that they are animals that probably only dominate a little bit later in life. So the females, even though they're able to breed quite early on, males are in a situation where they will breed only probably around 5-6 years old. So that's just hyena tracks that we're looking at there. Right, now I'm going to carry on southwards, see what's happening on this sort of western boundary. While we do that, let's send you across to Taylor. It's looking at some tiny insects.
We do have tiny insects. We've got a bit of a crime scene at the moment. It seems as though a caterpillar was sitting on this senna tree, maybe from the vagrant species. We know they like to eat the sennas. And it looks like something has pulled it apart from tail end and sort of where the head is. And then its intestines or whatever, all the guts and things like that is just kind of spewed out. And now there's lots of things eating it. There were flies. There's these weird little midge things that look kind of like fleas with wings. I don't know what those are. Like little fruit flies. And then, I don't know what else was on there. Let me have a closer look. But they're finding it quite tasty and quite delicious. And as we know, nothing goes to waste out here in the bush. And I'm pretty sure that will be gobbled up fairly quickly. Ugh, a bit gross, eh? Not nice. I mean, I couldn't imagine going back to camp and feasting on caterpillar guts. Yum, delicious. Very nice. I'm surprised we haven't been seeing more caterpillars on the senna tree. I did actually on my way down now this morning noticing that some of them have got a few less leaves. So something's eating them. We just need to find them and catch them. And again, I think we'll have more luck on the afternoon safaris. You can actually look here. Look at this. Look how they're completely, those leaves have been eaten. Most likely by a caterpillar of sorts. Which one, though, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Some caterpillars can eat a number of different plant toasts. Some, only one. Wisteria, you said at least the bush is really pretty. It is. It is so lovely and lush and green, which is wonderful. I'm glad we don't have wind today. I remember last bushwalk I did, it was super, super windy. And it's the first time I've seen Herbie a little bit edgy. I mean, we're pretty used to all the conditions out here and are able to try and walk through most of them. But the wind is definitely one that can make you nervous. I suppose if it was windy in winter, it'd be a different story because the grass wouldn't be chest high and you could still see what was going around you. But at the moment, the leaves are all rustling quite a bit. And then when the grass also blows into the wind, it's not particularly nice. I don't know, Herbie, I think, has gone up a little bit further ahead. Oh, there he is, taking a little rest. We haven't picked up on any lion tracks just yet, or leopard tracks. The only tracks we've seen is kind of what Brent has been seeing, which is the hyena tracks going up and down the road. But I think someone's driven here now. We don't see them. Now, there's a number of different animals that we will be listening out to as we walk along these roads. So, Daniel, ones that you want to keep an ear out for if they do alarm are vervet monkeys, are very good. Kudu as well. They don't tell stories. They're typically quite accurate. And zebra, even impala, pretty good. They alarm only when, well, for things that we need to worry about. Obviously, vervet monkeys also alarm for big raptors. So you just need to see where they're looking. But if you can find where a vervet monkey or a baboon is sitting, in fact, in a tree or down on the ground, normally if there's a predator on the ground, they'll probably go and sit up in the tree. You'll be able to see exactly where they're looking, and they'll point you right in that direction. So there's a couple of animals. Don't trust the squirrels. Well, not the squirrels in the Sabi sand. They talk nonsense all the time. They're alarming for a host of predators, and ones that we, maybe a snake or something like that, which is quite cool if you can find a snake. But if you're listening out for bigger predators, well, the ones I said earlier on the one. Oh, Herbie's just calling us. Let's quickly go with him. I don't know what he's got. We're on the road now. We're on going to Philemon's Derb. He's just said, come closer. I think he's found a track. Must have found a track. Yeah. What you got, Herbie? A crime scene? Oh my goodness, what crime scene, Herbie? What's happened? White-tailed mongoose? Versus a scrub hare. Did the scrub hare lose? It got eaten. Amazing. Okay, so Herbie has said that there was a fight here between a white-tailed mongoose and a scrub hare. And you can actually see all the claw marks in the ground. All of this is all disturbed from them chasing one another. The most prominent set of tracks you'll see will be the white-tailed mongoose. They've got a much bigger foot. And then Herbie says it looked like they ate it. You can see, look here. Here's some fluff. Oh, that's cool. Probably from the scrub hair. All of this. Now, I've seen white-tailed mongoose feeding on wildebeest carcasses in the Mara, which was pretty cool to see. And they'll take a variety of things to eat. I saw a really cool picture actually yesterday of a lilac-breasted roller eating a mouse. Amazing. You can go and have a look at that. I think it was on the Sabi Instagram page or something like that. But that's quite unusual. So very nice. I would have loved to have seen that. There are some really big white-tailed mongoose that live around here. We see their tracks almost every single day. And as winter comes along and the grass disappears, we will start to see them more often up on the big wide open plains behind camp, which would be very nice. Maybe those honey badgers. Very cool though. Okay, dokes. We're going to keep on walking down the road until we get to Philemon's cut line, which is a great spot to check for tracks. Brent, however, has managed to see the sun poking through the clouds.
Well, we heard some monkeys alarm calling in this area, so we've rushed down here to our southern boundary, and we're just sitting quietly. Everything has gone silent now, just the dawn chorus. And the Nkuhumas have crossed into, they went into Chitwa, and then from Chitwa they've crossed into Little Gowrie, so we're going to be looking for spotty cats now. So we're just listening. Now, monkeys can spot stuff from quite far away. It's a beautiful morning. No tracks of anything coming in here at the boundary. So let's head back in towards Battalier Road, that area. Ooh, okay, so let's just give you a quick leopard update for Dana on the female leopards and their cubs. Well, of course, there's been massive movement amongst the males, which has caused quite a lot of problems amongst the females, Dana. So with Hukamuri moving in, Quarantine moving in on Tingana's territory, and those 3 young new males that have come in, it's put a lot of pressure on the females. So Tandi is being very sneaky and hiding probably up in the northwestern sections of Djuma, and there's a bit of debate amongst the guiding team at the moment. I think Kalamba, just have a look towards the carcass there, VM. There's something light coloured in that area. It's the skull that I spotted. Just wanted to have a quick look. Now, even though the carcass is pretty much finished, the animals will still investigate it. So I think Kalamba has been killed by maybe Hukamuri. Taylor thinks she might still be alive. We're not 100% sure. Just judging from Tandi's behavior in the last while, it seems to me to lend towards a female. Her behavior as a female who's lost her cub. It's not 100% confirmed, but probably 90% confirmed. We're pretty sure that Shadow is probably also been killed, and with Shadow, not Barbara as well. She hasn't been seen in over 6 weeks. Shadulu is moving in to the western sections of Djuma, and she seems to be pushing further and further to the east every single time she comes in. And what other female leopards we talk? Sorry. No, it wasn't a monkey. Kuchava is still doing well. Her cub is doing well. She's quite safe where she is at the moment. She's still sort of within Tingana's range and Quarantine's range, and they probably both think the cub is theirs. What other female leopards? Yeah. There's a new female in Buffelshoek Hook that's got two cubs, but she's quite skittish, but she comes onto the boundary occasionally. Can you think of any other female leopards, Fem? Now, there's always a chance of seeing some dispersal females or young females that are moving out of territory to mate and stuff like that. But our main females, I would say at the moment, are Shidulu, Kuchava, and Tandi. And as I say, I think Shadow hasn't been seen in over 6 weeks, and Shidulu is all over her territory at the moment, and pretty much encompassed most of her territory. And then there's another, I've forgotten its name now, there's a female leopard down south. Can't remember her name now. It's got 2 cubs at the moment, and the parts of Shadow's territory that Shidulu is not using, that female leopard is using. So it looks pretty dire for Shadow and cub. Let's just move quickly, or slowly, actually, not quickly, through here. Wow! It sounds like Taylor has found a little reptile to show you.
We've got a lizard of sorts. I'm uncertain as to what this actually is. It's quite small, very small in fact, so I don't know if it's maybe a juvenile ornate sandfelt lizard, something like that. I think it's at least one of the sandfelt lizards, but I've never seen anything with such dramatic coloration. Look at it, black with a bit of yellow. No, it's white. It's more white than anything. And then it's got a very, very long tail too. And it's sitting so still. I don't know what it's doing. Maybe, I thought it'd be out quite early. Normally you just start to see lizards and reptiles being active when the sun is sort of poking its head out the clouds. And now we've got birds, go-away birds that are shouting. They could also be shouting at us. But they're not particularly big lizards, the ornate lizards. And it's got an exceptionally long tail. I wonder what it's doing out here. I wonder if it's even alive. Does it look like it's breathing? Does it? Oh, amazing. Pretty cool what you can see up close and with the camera. Have you seen a fly? Are you in stalk position? I have no idea what you're doing, but I think you're quite brave to be up so early. There are lots of little birds that would love to come and feast on you. But it is fairly camouflaged, the back here. It's got an amazing, its tail is probably longer than its body. At least, I don't know if you can see it from this side. Actually, it's looking beautiful because the light is just coming through. But that is amazing. I would like it if you could all take some screenshots for me. Oh, here's a hyena. Come, Jeandre. That's what the go-away birds are shouting at. Just down off the road is a hyena. Hello. Been busted on your way back home, probably. Quite nice to always see them on foot. I was wondering why that go-away bird was shouting a little bit more than it normally does. But that makes a lot of sense. Let's see where it's going to go. It's probably going to avoid us. Hyenas don't like people on foot. But, did I just see it? There, it's running. It's actually going... Hyena's coming towards you. I'm just telling Herbie so that he doesn't move around too much, because it was running in the direction of Herbie. We'll see if we can get another view of it, which would be quite cool. So again, you heard me trying to get hold of Herbie instead of going, Herbert! At the top of your lungs in the bush. We don't want that. You do things like that. So we'll make sort of or natural sound. Well, naturalish sounds. Try and get hold of one another. Can you imagine if I'd just gone, Herbert! At the top of my lungs, everything would know that I was now here. So I just wanted to let him know. Anyways, a go-away bird is still making a bit of noise, so the hyena's probably somewhere around here. I'm going to send you back to Brent to see if he's going to find you spots.
Taylor, do I look like Brent Leo Smith? And also, do I look like I have any spots? No. So at the moment, we are having a struggle. There's no sign of anything walking around anywhere here. We have a situation where there is zero tracks to work with. There's very little in the way of any footprints, and so I'm just kind of doing loops around trying to see if maybe, just maybe, I can come up with something. I have a sneaky suspicion that maybe Hukamuri's on a kill somewhere in the middle of one of these blocks, and it happened just before the rain, and then the rain has washed his tracks away, and that's why we don't know where he is, because no one has seen him on the western or eastern side of us, or our west and our south, should I say, with the east and western channels. And then this side, we can't find any tracks for him over the course of the last couple of days. So I wonder if he's not just sitting on a large kill somewhere and just enjoying it and finishing it up. You might find he finally got himself a warthog or something like that. Conditions were perfect for him to go about his business to be able to find those things. So I wonder if that's maybe where he is. Shadulu, we know, is a busy girl. She's up and down all over the show, so she might be kind of busy walking around now. I have a sneaky suspicion she also managed to catch something. We know that she was hunting massively the sort of day before the rain, and so if she didn't catch anything, which I don't think she did, given that she crossed from Little Gari to our side and back again during the course of the day, I think she must have killed something that night, as also sitting on a kill somewhere, and that's why we're not seeing any movement from those two cats in this western sector. Normally one of them is kind of moved around within the day. They might not still be on our side, but we have, you know, some sort of signs that they've moved through, whereas today and yesterday I've done this section both days and driven all these roads, and I still can't find any single sign of either of them. So I wonder where they are. Hopefully one of them will pop out. So I believe a lot of you are chatting on the various platforms about whether or not... Oh, let's not squash that snail. We can chat about the snail just now. Whether or not Hosana is going to be the last sort of line of Karula's lineage. So no, that's not going to be the case. I mean, Hosana is going to be obviously going to probably last the longest if all goes according to plan, because he is the youngest of Karula's direct offspring. But remember that her eldest daughter, in the form of Tandi, had a cub and had Kuchava, and Kuchava's already had her first cub, and so the lineage will continue. It's not going to stop at Hosana. You know, maybe yes, it's a little bit more diluted in that it's her granddaughters, but it's still the same lineage. It still comes from the Karula lineage, and so even though Hosana might be the last of the young ones, or of her youngest, he's not the end of the Karula sort of, like I say, bloodline. Right, so giant African land snail, which is not such a giant, this particular individual. This one is rather small, actually, and there are lots and lots and lots of them around. I'm pretty sure Taylor will find some if she walks around this morning. I've seen, this is probably about the fourth or fifth one I've already seen this morning. Yesterday morning, there were lots of them around as well. So hopefully Taylor will be able to find one. You can get a much closer view than what we are able to give you from the car. But they are moving around because of the dampness. They often come out when we've had a bit of rain and a bit of dew. You find them kind of crossing the roads like this, going from one side to another, and they're amazing creatures. I'm still super surprised, and I know this was last year, but I'm still surprised that these guys are actually that they feed off fruits. So I didn't realize that they would feed off fruit, and the fact that we found one feeding off a marula is pretty interesting to me. I didn't sort of know that they fed off marulas at all, or even fruits that fall. And I wonder if you gave them like a white berry bush fruit or maybe a guarri bush fruit, would they eat those, or is it just an opportunistic thing that marulas fall to the ground and are so juicy and fleshy that it's easier for them to be able to consume? I don't know, but it's an interesting kind of concept, and I wonder if we took some of those fruits and broke them open, if these guys would actually feed on them. The thing about a snail is it's not going to go up onto a tree to feed off fruit and to go and find those kind of things. It's just going to be opportunistic in a way, and much like a scavenger, like a hyena comes across a carcass, so these guys come across a fruit that's maybe somehow been opened for them, because remember, they're not going to be able to open the thick skin of something like a marula, but if somehow it's been opened, then they are going to go in there and probably have a little bit of a feed and just make use of those sugars and various other things that are around. But it is, as you can see, a race to try and get that sort of a pace across the road, trying to get away from us, and it's all very kind of stationary as it does it for us, but I'm sure that snail thinks it's moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Right, now I believe Brent Leo Smith is staring into a bush, and the only reason he would be staring into a bush is if there's something in there, so I wonder what he's got in store for you.
Well, we're staring at an inyala that's staring. So this inyala just looks very focused on a particular area, and we have heard some alarm calls in this area. See, there she is. And she's been very, very focused on something in the bushes there. So she's just very, very focused. Okay, let's just keep moving and then go around to the other. There's a road on the opposite side. So what we're really hoping is that she would start barking. Bah! Bah! And we would know for sure that there's a sound. So the fact there were monkeys alarm calling, there were go-away birds, and something around, but other things like monkeys and that is they can spot stuff from quite a distance. Down from up at a tree, and they can see a leopard quite far away, and they'll from a long distance away they'll start shouting. But no tracks so far. So what we're going to do is we're going to head back on Twin Dams, and we're going to check a road called Mamba Link. Ah, there's Mr. Stamper. So I'm just going to have a quick word, guys. Yeah, we're live. How's it, Chris? Nice to see you. Yeah, we'll catch up later. I don't know. I'm going to go check Mamba Link. Next one, yeah. Yeah, and there's a new road on that goes along that drainage line that runs between Leadwood. Yeah, it is. It's very nice. Yeah. Cheers, guys. Enjoy. Perfect. Cool. Cheers. Okay. Nice to see you too, Chris. So Chris is driving out of Djuma for the next little while, and Lex. So nice to see them again. Now it seems like both Tristan and I are struggling to find a fresh set of tracks to follow this morning, so Tristan has given up all hope and is staring at the landscape.
I am indeed. It's because it's a beautiful landscape. There's this golden sun that's come up over the horizon. There's a little bit of mist, and this grass has got so much seed on it at the moment. All the different species of grasses have got so much seed on it at the moment that there is kind of this golden glow that is coming through as you look to the eastern side. So it's worth stopping and just admiring for a little bit. You know, sometimes it's not always about just finding animals and tracking and those kind of things. Sometimes a beautiful landscape is also an amazing thing to watch. And so maybe we should just sit for a few minutes and just enjoy the silence of an African dawn. So absolutely beautiful, and you can hear lots of little birdies that are chirping this morning. So there's a few of the babblers. We've had some of the greenwood hoopoes. There's a couple Cape turtle doves that are called. So it's a very, very beautiful morning, and we sometimes need, like I say, need to just stop and appreciate the fact that we have mornings like this. You know, often, like I say, we get so focused on trying to find an animal for everybody that we forget sometimes just to sit and enjoy the sort of environment that we're actually in. So hopefully you all enjoyed that as much as I did. Nice to sit kind of peacefully for a few minutes, or a few seconds should I say. It wasn't really much of a minute, I suppose, and just enjoy what's going on around us. Good. Now, what are we going to do in regards with tracks? I actually need to speak to Brent, because I wonder if Brent is heading to Chitwa or not, because one of us will probably have to go that side at some point. And so while I speak to Brent on the radio, let's send you across to Taylor and see whether she managed to find her hyena once again.
Look what we found. We haven't found the hyena. I suspect that it has disappeared from us, but we have found a little insect of sorts. If you come this side, you should be able to see it. It's very camouflaged on this apple leaf tree. In there, to the right of my finger, there is a locust of sorts, or a nymph. It's a nymph of a grasshopper or something. Can you see it?
No.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to... below my... There we go, you've got it. Center frame. There we go. Look how camouflaged it is. It is still quite small, though. Very grey, so it has chosen apple leaf as a good sort of tree to sit on. Hidden away quite nicely from any hornbills, although the hornbills have been out in full force. But that has still got a long way to go before it reaches its full state of life. It's got probably a couple of more weeks to go. And I think we're going to see a lot of younger insects around, just because there is that much more grass about and water about. So they can develop later on in the year. Now, this tree that we're looking at is an apple leaf, like I said, so it is quite a nice tree to have around. It's used for many, many different things. A lot of furniture, making the dugout wooden canoes, mokoros as they call them. Not from this one, though. You need quite a large trunk to the tree. Yes, Bex, please can I have that name again, because I'm going to... This is one of those ones where I know I'm going to mess up, unfortunately. Let me find this one. Cat brag. There we go. Let me just get that out straight away before I mess it up. So yes, there are a couple of plants that you don't want to touch out here. I haven't seen too many of them. Typically we're looking out for plants that have a milky latex to them. So I haven't seen any milkweed. There's not many euphorbias growing around here. That's a really toxic plant that you want to keep away from. But again, stinging nettles, not a very nice one. They aren't too prevalent in this area though. And well, a devil's thorn is not a particularly nice plant to keep away from, but not necessarily for poison, but because as the name suggests, it's got big nasty thorns on it. You wouldn't want to fall onto one of those plants or walk around barefoot. Otherwise you'll find yourself in a bit of trouble. But the most toxic plant that we have out here is indeed the euphorbia. But again, they're growing in a couple of gardens. They like to grow on rocky outcrops and cliffs and things like that. We don't see too many of them around here. Also around riverine thickets, you see the big candelabra euphorbias, and yeah, they've got a horrible milky latex. But you can still touch the outside. They also do have these tiny little hairs, and some of them have got thorns on them. I remember once going for a walk and accidentally basically going down a cliff, and I'd slipped and I put my hand out to stop myself from tumbling all the way down, and it was a euphorbia, and it had lots and lots of little thorns that pricked my hand, which wasn't very, very nice at all. So we won't be touching any of those. But look at this big hyena. Well, it's not a hyena, it's a footprint of a hyena. It is massive. I would put my pen down, but I've lost my pen on the walk, so I might have to walk back this route or find it. That's massive. That's almost the size of a lioness's foot. I mean, that's pretty much exactly the same length as my hand, and quite wide, in fact. But probably a big female that's been hopping about and through here. Anyways, we'll keep searching for all sorts of wonderful, crazy, small critters. Off you go back to Tristan to see what he's up to now.
Wonderful, crazy critters. It sounds like a kid's TV show, Taylor. Maybe you should start becoming a host of Wonderful Crazy Critters with Taylor McCurdy. That sounds like a good idea. Now, I'm edging forward and looking to my left, not because I have a crick in my neck and can't turn it to the right, but because there was some animals here that have now disappeared, as they do when you want to put them on camera. They are a species that does this to us regularly. So there we go. Right, now I believe Brent has got some monkeys, so let's quickly send you across to him.
So I'm pretty sure this is the bunch that were making a noise a bit earlier. Some of them are feeding on guarri bushes. And you can just see the guarri bush shaking around. Where'd you go? And some of them are even on the ground, coming up towards towards that tree. Here we go. Hello, little vervet. Now, yesterday Herbie was munching on, was it yesterday? Yeah, it must have been yesterday. Guarri fruit as he moved through the bush, so the monkeys are doing the same. There's some being playful. What are you up to, mischief? I'm almost certain these are the monkeys that were alarming a bit earlier. So we're in the right area. Chop! Where are you off to? Having a bit of fun in the sun. Chasing each other about. As I said, these monkeys were alarming a bit earlier this morning. Carol, monkey alarm calls are generally meant for monkeys, but all other species will take notice of it. Even the other predators, lions will stop and listen, leopard will stop and listen, even if they're not being alarmed at themselves. So it does alert all the different animals around. Okay, well, we're going to see if we can find what the monkeys were shouting at. In the meantime, and Tristan has got something that's waddling down the road.
Well, good luck, Brenty. I hope that you find what you're looking for. I'm pretty sure there might be something around there. And knowing Brent and how he is like a dog with a bone, he won't let it go until he finds out what exactly they were shouting at. But we have probably one of the more sort of pretty birds and funny-looking fellas that we get out here. So this is a long-tailed paradise wider, and we have been seeing quite a bit of them lately. They've got this beautiful big black tail that comes off the sort of back end that's got that sort of crest, almost like a sailfish, and then they've got these jet black wings with this orangey-coloured neck, and find them commonly walking along sort of paths and roads, feeding off all the seeds that are dropping down onto the ground. And they kind of go along, peck, 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 and then when they're disturbed, they try and fly up and get out of the way. Now, they are birds that don't always look like this. They go through a kind of plumage change when it's breeding season. That's when they get all of these crazy cool colors and big sort of feathers. And when it's non-breeding season, they become actually quite drab in coloration. I'll try and find a picture of it all now to show everyone. But right, now, I believe Taylor has found the only wolf that you'll see in the African bush. Is it an animal, or is it maybe an arachnid?
Well, look at what we've got. We've got a wolf snake. It looks like a wolf snake, from what I can see. There are snakes called stiletto snakes, which are highly venomous, which look very, very similar, and often people get confused by them and can cause a lot of bites. If you don't know what the snake is, don't touch it. But it has also eaten something. I don't know what it's eaten. They like to eat, well, I suppose, of a snake of this size. They get a little bit bigger than this. Not too much more, though. They'll eat things like lizards, skinks, those types of things. Probably really small rodents, maybe some that have, just been born of sorts, but typically more little reptiles. Now, the reason why it's moving the way it is because it's absolutely terrified of us. And by doing this sort of jarred, erratic motion, it might give a bird or something that would want to eat it, we don't want to eat it, a bit of a fright. And obviously it's not working with us, but when it does move away, we will let it go. Now, as we said, we pointed out that it's definitely eaten something. It's got a big bulge. That size looks like it's probably a lizard of sorts. Now, One thing you must remember is if a snake has just eaten something, please don't go and pester it. This, I think, probably ate it maybe a little while ago, because if a snake feels threatened, what they will do is regurgitate up their entire meal, and that's not very nice. Of course, to do that to any animal, it's like chasing a lion or a predator off of its kill. But the snake now has gone through that entire process of trying to desperately swallow it. Very cool. Now, we don't actually see a lot of snakes in the bush. Remember, they're petrified of us, and they typically will feel through the vibrations and move away before we even know that they're there. So, Anna Marie, I think I've actually just been really lucky. To be honest, in the last 5.5 weeks, this is the most snakes I've ever seen in the bush. I've seen boomslangs from juveniles to adults. We've seen... Did we see a bus? We saw python. Now we've got this wolf snake. I've seen lots of giant legless skinks. They're not snakes, but they look like snakes. And I've also seen a brown house snake around camp. And there was some type of a snake. And I've seen how many mambas, like 3 or 4 mambas since I've been back. So it's the most snakes I've ever seen in my entire life in the bush. I think it's just because there's a lot of food around for them at the moment. Remember, we have been having a lot of droughts. A lot of snakes feed on other snakes. And then they also feed on rodents. So with there being lots of rain, there's obviously been an abundance of rodent species around at the moment. So they are out and they are more active. The weather's still a little bit warm. It's still quite cool. Right, very nice. But we'll probably let the snake go off. I might actually even usher it off the road so someone doesn't drive on it, or a bird doesn't eat it. I don't want a bird to eat it. It's a beautiful snake. I'm going to send you to Tristan, who's birding today.
I am having a birding morning. When there's no trucks to work with, bird's always a good one to go to. And we've got a beautiful bearded woodpecker that's pecking at the wood. So he's doing exactly what his name suggests. And it's amazing to listen to these guys drumming and kind of trying to get into the wood itself. And that's how you find them a lot of the time, is by listening to that sound. So maybe let's just sit quietly for a little bit and just enjoy the sort of pecking sound as it goes about its business. So that's how you, like I say, you often find them. And interestingly enough, all the woodpeckers have different sort of beats and depths to the sound that they produce. These bearded woodpeckers, just given the size that they are in comparison to something like a cardinal, they're just so much bigger that when they hit like that, there's this massive amount of drumming that comes out of it, and you end up with a much louder sound than the cardinals. The cardinals tend to make a softer sort of tapping rather than this deep drumming sound that you hear now. So, Conrad, this bird doesn't get a headache because it is evolved to do so. This particular individual has some very cool things, or in fact not the particular individual, but the species, the woodpeckers, have a very cool individual, and I say he, but I mean actually she. It's a female bird that we're looking at, and basically what they've got is they've got a tongue that is incredibly interesting. So their tongue is not like ours where it's attached inside our kind of mandible area. Their tongue actually wraps around their head, so it'll go from their beak basically between the eyes, around the top of the head, and then attaches at the base of the skull. Now that tongue will act as a massive shock absorber, so as they're hitting, it's absorbing a lot of the shock so that the brain itself is not getting bounced around all over the place. The brain also sits inside of a fluid that helps to, and that fluid is quite sort of, I don't know what the word is for it, but it's quite viscous, I suppose, and that means that the brain has a bit of space to kind of move, as well as it kind of has some support, and so it actually doesn't get hurt too badly at all. It's a pretty amazing thing that when they hit like that, the brain is basically being cushioned and being protected by all kinds of little mechanisms, the tongue and this fluid, and it stops them from actually the brain hitting up against the skull, which is basically what would cause a headache. So an amazing kind of feat that they're able to do what they do all day long without getting any headache whatsoever. And basically this bird is looking for little beetles and grubs and all kinds of other things, so guy roller. That's exactly what you were asking and inquiring about. But yes, they're looking for mostly little grubs that go inside there. So wood boring insects that are there. They sometimes will grab those. They'll look for even sometimes things like scorpions, little baby scorpions that are inside there. Anything really that burrows into wood is what they're trying to aim for. So they're just drilling out a nice little hole, then they're grabbing that little grub and pulling it out with that long beak. Amazing to see. And then the tongue is quite long as well, so as they kind of make that hole, the tongue then goes in. I was saying it's attached to the base of the skull. It's actually very long, and it goes deep into that hole and to be able to get the food that they need. So that's what it's busy doing. This female, she's trying to find as much food as she can. Now, you'll probably wonder why I call her a female, so I'll show you quickly, because we were talking earlier about basically about the long-tailed paradise wider, which I'll show you shortly as to what the male looks like when he's not breeding. But there's the female of the bearded woodpecker. You can see the black moustachial stripe, black eye stripe, and black on the top. If you look at the male, he has a nice little fancy red crown on top, and so that's how you can tell male and female apart. Very, very cool birds, though. I love the woodpeckers, and so I thoroughly enjoy having them around. Now, the paradise or wider, let's get them. Long-tailed paradise wider, there we go. Okay, so it's difficult to see because they've only included very small pictures, but there's the male when he's breeding. So you can see he's got that little red collar, that orange neck, and then these black massive feathers that come down, and that's what I was saying, it almost looks like a little sailfish with its mouth open on the back of his tail. So those are very cool. And the female is to the right of it. You can see very drab with this little eye stripe, and then that's what the male looks like when he's in eclipse plumage, which basically is when he's not breeding. This is the plumage he goes into. He still has a bit of a black head, but otherwise very drab in comparison to what he looks like while breeding, and so that's why they're easily overlooked during non-breeding time. Now, James, breeding season theoretically should be finishing in June. So if you have a look here, they are start breeding in January, so a very small amount of breeding. So this is a little graph of January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and then you can see what little blocks. And so a small B represents when the start of breeding, and only a few birds will be breeding at that point. And then the height of breeding season is the big B's, the capital B's. So February, March, April, May is height of breeding season, and then by June it kind of goes down. So that's basically how it works, and so you'll have a situation where there'll still be a few of them around for now. Right, now Taylor is going to be doing a little happy dance for you, because it sounds like she's found her favorite amphibian in the world.
I have. It's so cool, and it's so little. Nope. It's a teeny tiny Bushveldt rain frog. The only frog's Latin name that I know. Can you believe it? Breviceps aspersus pentheri is the subspecies specifically. And they're such cool little creatures. But I don't know what's wrong with all the animals there. Why they're sitting out on the road? Do they not know that this is the time that the birds come out? Although, I don't know if I'd want to eat a Bushveldt rain frog. They're really quite funny little creatures. Obviously, this is a small one. And when they get upset, they puff themselves out quite a bit to try and make themselves look bigger. And they don't hop. They walk too. It's really funny the way that they walk. And then, as a last resort, if they feel absolutely terrified, they do this sort of like a release call where they're desperate to try and scare whatever's trying to eat them, and they do the scream. It's not scary. I find it funny. I've watched a couple of things try and eat them, and then they die. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. Sometimes the animal gets a fright and then drops them, and then their camouflage can kick in. I don't know how well this one is. It doesn't seem to be moving much at all. Skin looks very, very saggy around here. I don't know when it last ate. And the thing that I miss most, so here's a question that I get asked often is, what do you miss most about guiding? Obviously, I still guide now, but guiding guests is very different. And it was actually the pathway lights that led to the rooms that I missed the most about guiding. One of the very many things was because after rain, that would attract all the alates. Obviously, you saw the other day, Steve had 3 different termite mounds that were releasing the princes and princesses of the termites into the air, and they, of course, attracted by lights. So all the insects would gather underneath it, and you would find geckos and these fellas hanging around. And they get quite big. I mean, they can probably get about 6 or 7 times the size of this one. This is a particularly small one. And the one day I watched, I'm sure I've got a video on Instagram or something like that. It ate 10 alates. I sat and watched it. It just arrived on the scene and it just went up, 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 and ate everything. It was so fat that if you touched it on its sides, that you could actually feel every single alate in its body. You can almost see how it was just about to burst. They're quite greedy. I feel like frogs don't know when to stop. They just keep going. Now, for those of you that like frogs just as much as I do, obviously, most of you know when I was quite young, I used to go out and I'd collect tadpoles in jars and take them home, and then, much to my mother's dismay, and then let them, well, sort of metamorphosize into frogs and then release them in the garden. My mom couldn't stand it. I don't actually know what she did with them, because sometimes the tadpoles would just disappear, and there was some story about what happened to them. Not a child anymore. I'm going to bring them home. Maybe I should bring some tadpoles home for my mom. She'll be so excited. And they're really, really, really good environmental indicators, frogs, and that's why they're so important to have around in the ecosystem. And it's why we don't like to touch them too much, because of all the hand sanitizers and the soaps and the hand lotions and things we put on our bodies could be slightly toxic to this frog. So if we touch them, they're able to breathe through their skin. So they're super sensitive, and they'll absorb any toxins that I have on my hand into its body, which could eventually kill it. So if you're going to handle a frog, maybe try and put it on a leaf or a book, or wear surgical gloves, something like that. That's the best way to handle it. Obviously out here I'm in the mood to remove all the cool things that are on the road this morning and put them that way, because this is the first time I've seen one of these frogs in a very, very long time. And so if we do have lots of frogs around in pans, you know that the water is fairly clean, and well, everything seems to be as it should be in the environment. So save the frogs. Next time you think of one and you don't really like it, just remember that you know that everything is a-okay in your garden. Very cool. Anyways, we're going to usher it off the road, which may take some time, but I'm going to send you to Brent, who I'm sure is tracking furiously for leopards.
Well, save the frogs, McCurdy. Save the frogs indeed. Very important critters. Frogs. Now, this is where the Nkuhumas were. It looks like they were hunting here last night, so we know where they are. So unfortunately they're making tracking leopards a little bit more difficult. Now, we found the first tracks I've seen of Tundi in quite a while. Unfortunately, they're not fresh. They're from probably yesterday morning after the rain. And you can see that because she stepped in some mud and it's gone hard, so it's not a soft track. Lines up and down and around here. But yeah, so unfortunately not fresh tracks, but that's the first tracks we've seen of Tundi in quite a while. So we're going to check Leadwood quickly and hope that maybe there's something on Leadwood. That's what the monkeys were alarming on. We couldn't find anything really on Mamba Loop, so we're going to go check around there. There's just Nkuhuma tracks up, down, all around. So I think they were heading, this is where they would have crossed out, somewhere in this area, this early this morning, we think, because they're not far from the boundary at all, just a couple of 100 meters. Ooh. So I am just trying to turn down the game drive radio. Now, Anna Marie, the Styx Pride are currently in Hofmans, I think, quite close to the Mala boundary. But I was chatting to my brother yesterday. He came for a visit. He had an afternoon off. Oh, they flew away. Oh, there's some lots of little birds around here. Now, what have we got in there, VM? What is that one? Quite difficult to see just now. But the Styx Pride are spending quite a lot of time in the western sections on Shirley's. What have we got there? Can't really see it at the moment. Looks like a little seed eater. Ooh, nice, MP, nice. It is a little seed eater. We've got quite a nice little bird party going here. Yes, as Rebecca noticed in Final Control, indeed, you could see its little tongue. No, you saw the white face mask on it. That's always a good one. I'm not sure exactly which one this is at the moment, so I'll do some detective work on it. Because it just keeps hopping, so we can see the face mask quite clearly. I'm pretty sure it is one of the canaries, or the canary family, that area. Oh, where's he gone? Did he fly away? Oh, he's back there. So we're just trying to figure out which pretty little bird it is, Daisy. As I said, it looks like one of the little seed eaters or canary family. I'm just trying to... Did it have yellow on its chest, Vim? I don't think it did. Yes, I think I know which one it is. Let's have a look if he comes out. It does look a bit yellowish, which makes it a little bit harder. If it does have yellowish on it. It is yellow, it is yellow. Oh, that changes the game, doesn't it, Vim? Are you getting comms from Rebecca, Vim? It sounds like someone sitting on a radio. No, Sabi. It is a... It is... There when we saw it, it was very easy. It just wasn't the most obvious of them. It was a little bit dull, so there we go. It was a little yellow-fronted canary. Our most common canary here. I was just hoping that some of the other birds in this bird party would make an appearance. But they seem to have flown off. If we have no luck with the leopards, shortly we might have to... Oh, come on, car. Resort to birding. Which I never complain about. I love a good birding. And it is quite a beautiful morning for birding. Yeah, a little yellow-fronted canary. So, when I couldn't see the yellow as much, I thought there was a small possibility, which we do see sometimes, as a streaky-headed canary. Are you going to fly before VM can get there? Good morning, rattling testicular. Or is it? It's not. It's not a rattling testicular at all. We saw one of these the other day. You can see a very long bill. Not as sort of stout as testiculars, that very, very streaky head and back, and that very white, big white around the eye. Who can remember what bird this is? Hashtag Safari Live. And we saw one not far from here a few days ago. Oh, off it goes. If you know what bird that is, hashtag Safari Live. And quite the little bird party going on in this area. Let's see if we can flush any other birds. Alas, no flushing of any other feathered friends. Well, VMC, where? Back forward? Say when? Oh, there. Oh, in the distance. I thought I was looking much closer. Well spotted, VM. It is not a thrush, Siberia. Oh, hello. What have we got there? Ah, our Wahlbergs. Hello, little Wahlbergs. Enjoying the morning sun. Dark morph Wahlberg's eagle. Just keeping quiet for a second. just in case those monkeys or something else starts alarming again. Well done, Mafuta, but it's not the full answer. It is indeed a pipit, but I want to know which pipit. There are many pipits. Bushveldt pipit is correct. Who's that from, Rebecca? You or someone out there? Not Rebecca. From Mafuta, yes. Oh, sorry, Mafuta. Rebecca did not send your full answer in. So I was scolding you when I should have been scolding Rebecca. Tisk, tisk. It was indeed a Bushveldt pipit. Here we go, a little bit closer to the Wahlbergs now. I wonder how long they're still going to be around for before they decide to head north towards the Sahel. Okay, let's keep checking for our spotted kitties along here. Our Leadwood Road is one of those magic roads. When you're struggling with animals, sometimes, for some reason, Leadwood Road always seems to be the one to produce a miracle. Or at least to give you a little bit of hope in terms of a track or something. Now, as I said, let's keep our fingers crossed for Leadwood Road. In the meantime, let's go across to Taylor, who is not herding cats, but apparently she herds frogs these days.
I literally did. I ushered that little Bushveldt rain flog, whatever, onto a wealth area leaf very gently, and then released it. Also, that snake that we moved the snake off of the road. It was so fat, it was just going, oh, I can't get up. I couldn't get up a little embankment. It was really funny watching it try and go up there. Anyways, the frog and the snake are safe for now. We've done our bit in letting it, helping them get to the grass. We did have a praying mantis, but it didn't want to play ball with us this morning. It kept jumping around, even trying to put it on my hand, and it was just like, nope, and leapt off and landed somewhere in the grass, and I couldn't see it again. Look at what we've got on the floor, though. Who done it? Shall we play a game of who done it? Hashtag Safari Live. Who do you think has been here? Whose feces are these on the ground? Let us know. We want to know. We need to know. We have to know. And you have to be quick about it, too. This is an easy one. It should be not difficult for any of you. What is this? Everything's hiding from me today. It's an ant. It's a big ant. Come here. I don't know if you're going to see it, John, or maybe it's going to come out this way. Come. It's got serious mandibles on it, though. Wow. Look at that. It's huge. It's too big. I don't want to get bitten by that. Not quite as big as a Matabele ant. Sort of about the same size as a siafu ant, but we don't get siafu ants here. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a soldier. I don't know. It's very long and slender, too. Can't say that I've been particularly observant and seen that type of, I almost said snake, ant before. That's definitely not a snake. Moving around in this midden, though. Perhaps looking for something that want to eat it. I think I just saw a little dragonfly. I did. Oh, what was that? I think it was a rubber fly that flew towards me. I pulled away like that. It was going to take me away. Carol and Tim, you've guessed impala. Well done. That is indeed correct. So we've touched some of the fresh stuff. Oh, it's still warm. It's not. I'm talking absolute nonsense now. It's not warm. But it is still a bit gooey. Now, I know all of you are going, ew, that's disgusting, Taylor. Why are you touching dung? That's not nice. Well, it's just been eating leaves and grass and probably a bit of fruit if there's been anything around. They eat a lot of different things. But we are seeing the male impalas doing this quite often and remarking their sort of territories as we gear up for rutting season. There's going to be much talk about rutting season coming along. Anyway, Brent is giving the spots a bit of a break now, and he's jumped on Tristan's train. He's birding.
Oh no, we haven't given the spots a break. We've just found a very cool bird we don't see that often here. We have a pair of double-banded sandgrouse. They are very, very cool. That's the female that Viem's on at the moment. And you can see the little male, and you can see the double band on his schnoz. That's where he gets his name from. Now, sandgrouse are very good at giving people big frights who are walking. And they'll hide till you nearly step on them, and then they just explode into the air. Oh, big shake coming from the male. He's puffing himself up. Are you going to shake it? Shake it? No, he's got a little bit shy. Now, double-banded sandgrass is the only sandgrass we get in the Sabi sand, but there are quite a few different species of sandgrass throughout Africa and southern Africa. The most common one we used to see in the Mara was the yellow-throated sandgrass. But what I love about sandgrass is their timeshare at waterholes. So quite a lot of the sandgrass species live in very, very dry areas. And they will fly immense distances to drink water. And the different species will drink at different times of the day. Yellow-throated sandgrass in southern Africa drink at midnight. The double-banded sandgrass will drink at sunrise and sunset. And the birchall sandgrass will drink at 11 o'clock in the morning. And they can arrive in flocks of hundreds of thousands in the desert areas. And not only do they drink, but their feathers are specially developed that they can store water in their feathers to take back to their nests to give the chicks that are often very, very far from permanent water. Isn't that cool? That is incredible. I think it's incredible. Now, one of the other creatures that really likes double-banded sandgrass is peregrine falcons. It is one of their favorite foods. So when they fly off to drink, the falcons will actually hunt them and take them mid-air as they are coming in to the water holes. They will also feed in moonlight, so they will feed during the very, very bright moonlit nights. Other than that, most of their feeding happens at dusk and dawn, and it's quite nice to have such a relaxed pair, because normally they are quite good at taking off and disappearing. Now, they are ground nesters, Davy, and they have about two to three in a clutch, and their eggs are incredibly well camouflaged. And there's quite a few different color variants of the eggs depending on where they are from. So you have speckled ones, you have pinky ones, you have purple ones. And they nest sometimes under a bush, sometimes between tufts of grass, sometimes just out in the open. Now, like quite a few different bird species, the sandgrass are completely monogamous, so they will stay together as a couple, yes. They have quite a varied diet of different seeding plants. Haha! Now that is a wonderful thing. I'm glad you asked that, Une. What kind of noise do they make? I really like the noise that they make. That's their noise. Oh, we got... Oopsie, sorry guys. Look, he's calling now. Sorry, Sandglass, I didn't mean to pretend there was another one around. But I really like that call. Now, they are resident species, Daniel, but they will have local migrations within an area depending on water and food availability, but they don't migrate completely out of an area. They are I think they're very, very pretty. Okay, well, I think we're going to try and keep searching for spotted cats and some more wonderful birds. In the meantime, it seems like Tristan has already moved on and found himself a very flat, spotted rug.
I have indeed a very flat, spotty rug that is, well, as tired and as worn out as could possibly be. So, little Hosana, who is, well, I think it's Hosana, I don't even know, I can't even see him really. All I can see is that there's a massive round belly that's being moving up and down, but that's about the only movement we've seen so far. So I think it's him, given that he was on his kill yesterday, and pretty sure that he has eaten all of that, hence where he is. He's far from where we had him yesterday. He was on the sort of southern side of Chitwa, close to the airstrip, whereas now he's on the northern side of the dam wall. So he's definitely kind of moved a little bit, and he's now probably just going to take a bit of a rest. And I'm surprised he's actually here, given that apparently the Nkuhuma Pride walked right past here this morning and in this general vicinity. So maybe he just decided he'd come and watch the lion parade and while he rested. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to move much at all unless something else comes along that piques his interest. Maybe Tingana or maybe some sort of food item, because we know Hosana, even with a full belly, will still look for food. I think other than that, he's going to be one sleepy cat during the course of this morning's drive. I don't think too much is going to go on with him. Well, yes, it is. I mean, it is difficult when you spend a lot of time with animals not to form some sort of attachment. It's obviously kind of the longer that you work out here, in a way, the easier it gets not to. And I say this because you have a situation where you see so many of them disappear, die, that it starts to almost harden you a little bit in a way, which is I know it sounds weird, but and that kind of a bit callous, but it is true. You start to realize that it's just, unfortunately, the way that nature goes, is that you will lose some of these animals, and so you start to kind of really, develop these sort of emotions towards things, and then you realize that it's just not worth doing it, because ultimately, it's never going to end well. But it's hard not to. I mean, it's hard not to kind of get this love for an animal that provides so much and gives you so much. And you think of cats like Hosana and Tamba and Karula. I mean, these are all animals that have given so many amazing sightings to all of us, and it becomes very difficult not to kind of get attached to that, and it makes it hard when they do disappear or unfortunately get hurt or something like that. And so you try not to, but I suppose it's inevitable. I mean, they endear themselves so many times, and not just the leopards. I mean, there's certain people will have a close attachment to lions or to elephant, and we know Taylor absolutely loves Daryl. I'm pretty sure she'd be quite devastated if something happened to Daryl, and so it depends. I mean, we've all got certain kind of animals that we get to know and that we kind of have some sort of an emotional attachment to, and it's hard to kind of see them going through difficult parts. So yeah, I suppose we do. It's just inevitable. It's human emotion, is that we get attached to things. And if you look at the way that we kind of deal with our pets and those kind of things, it's and not that these animals are pets. It's just a situation where you do get kind of, you get to spend so much time with them that it's difficult not to. And I know a lot of people will say you need to remove the emotion from it and those kind of things, and yes, that's true, but like I say, when you're doing it every single day, day in, day out, and most of you join us a lot of the time for that, it's why these kind of things become difficult to sort of deal with. But it is nature, and so I suppose there's nothing that we can do that's going to prevent it. Oh, hello. Are you going to stretch a little bit, Hosana? It definitely looks like him. It's not Tingana, that's for sure, and it's not Tumba. And so if you add the kind of fact that he's got a big belly and clean ears, I'm pretty sure, Hosana. But that is one full cat, that's for sure. I'm hoping he's going to roll onto his back like he did yesterday, because I love it when cats do that, especially if they've got full bellies. When you see male lions after a big buffalo kill and they're all kind of on their backs with these massive, huge, swollen bellies, it's always quite fun to look at. And so hopefully Hosana will do the same thing and oblige. Also hoping at some point he decides to actually pop his head up and have a look at what's going on around him. It's interesting how he's just so used to kind of vehicles and the presence of vehicles that I've watched two vehicles, us arrive and one vehicle drive past him, and he has not even twitched or sort of lifted his head to even see what it is. And I mean, it's not like we are not noisy creatures. We're noisy kind of cars, and especially the Wendy or the Jigger and Rusty fleet, we have lots of squeaks, and that means that when we go over grass and things like that and drive near him, it makes a lot of noise, yet he just does not react at all. So it just goes to show how relaxed he is and what a massive food coma he's in at the moment. He's probably just dreaming about being a bit more comfortable than he currently is from eating too much duiker. I wonder if that male duiker came back again yesterday to investigate what was going on. It's interesting. It's amazing also the bond that those little antelope form in such a short space of time. But he's chosen himself a good spot. He's got a nice little shady area. It's got a little cove of trees, long grass, which is going to be nice and comfy and soft. And then he's got the dam very close by. So he'll have a constant stream of young animals coming, or animals coming past, as well as a constant supply of water. So it really is a great place for him to be spending the day. And as we know with Hosana and Tingana at the moment, very seldom that they're not at Chitwa. They're typically hanging around this area. If not on Chitwa, then they kind of push up a little bit to Torchwood and southern Djuma, but for the most part, they're staying in this area, which has been wonderful for us. Chitwa has been an amazing addition to our traverse. Good. Now, while we kind of reposition, because one of the vehicles wants to get out, let's send you back across to Taylor, who's doing a little bit of flower management.
Flower management, Tristan. Management is how we say it here in South Africa. I am doing flower management. We have got a wandering Jew, or a blue commelina, which is a very common flower, Archie. You've all seen it 300 times, I'm sure. It's lovely. But funny enough, my eye is a little bit sore today. My left eye. I don't know what's happened to my left eye. As you know, I'm plagued by the eye curse. I think I get that from my mother, because she also always has issues with her eyes. It's the problem with having blue eyes and blonde hair and fair skin. So I think what I'm going to try is, shall I try and put this little bit of liquid in my eye? We'll give it a bash. I don't have to do that, because you can use this if you've got any sort of allergies, the little liquid that is collected in this little purse, if you will. You can put it in your ears, your eyes, your nose. It's pretty cool in the sense that it will just help you. Whoop, 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 whoop. I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm making strange sounds. Let me squeeze it gently. It's always hard. And then, anyway, I'm going to end up pushing this flower into my eye. No, I'm going to pop a seed into my eye. We don't want that. There's actually not much in here. Hang on. No, I'm not going to get anything. There's nothing. Look here. This one wasn't filled as nicely. There's barely any liquid in there. Perhaps somebody else has been here before me and managed to utilize it. Maybe a tortoise. Okay, well, here's another one. Never mind. There's lots of them. Yeah. We're winning. Now we're going to win. Oh, wayfly. Can you believe I actually got it in? That's amazing. I'm so proud of myself. Okay, it burns a little. like eye drops kind of do. But it doesn't take my vision away. I know sometimes when I use certain eye drops, my eyes go completely blurry afterwards. But with this, a little bit of a sting and then relief. I don't know how well it's going to work, but it's an old trade secret that many of the indigenous folk would use if they had any ailments to their eyes. And you can imagine if you are out walking on the hunt, out for days at a time, a lot of dust, sun in your eyes are definitely going to start to take a knock. So using something like that is pretty amazing. And my eye feels, let's give it a little bit. It's not going to work instantly. But it has been quite itchy the entire morning. We'll see if it actually takes away redness too. It felt like my eye was red. I don't know if it was red, but we will have a little look. Now, bushwalker, we've actually been lucky with all the insects we have seen and snakes and things like that. I'm shocked. Did not think we'd be seeing those creatures on walk this morning. And Russen, the reason why I know I can use certain plants for various things out here is because I've learnt about them. So it's unfortunately not knowledge that you just get. It takes a bit of time, a bit of practice, a lot of reading, going out with local guides who know the area, who have perhaps grown up. Maybe they, grandmothers were sangomas and they use all sorts of plants to make various preparations of medicinal types. So you can learn that way. And then, of course, if you just have a book and you're able to walk around with it and start identifying certain plant species, you can find the name, you can look for more information about them if the book doesn't give you sort of medicinal uses. So it just takes a bit of time. It's, like I said, it's not something that happens overnight, I'm afraid. Many years of working in a particular area. Like my knowledge, say, in comparison to someone like Steph about the plants in this area will be a lot less, because I've only been in the Sabi sand for 3 years, whereas Steph has been here for well over 10 years, probably even longer than that, probably about 15 years in the Sabi sand alone. And talk about one of the people who actually helped get the Sabi sand going. No, I'm just joking. I'm only teasing. Brent is not having much luck with leopards. It seems that Tristan's beaten him at that game. Let's go see if he's still birding.
Well, we're having an absolutely splendid morning. I just heard some brown-headed parrots. So we're just trying to see where they are. Where? I can hear them squawking. They're in this terminalia somewhere, aren't they, Vim? Let's go try to go forward. You see them? I think I can see movement at the back of that. Okay, I got them. They're actually low for once, by the looks of things. Yeah, see. There. Is that a squirrel? That's a squirrel. That's a squirrel. They must be at the top of that terminalia. Okay, let's have a look at the back side of this terminalia. Maybe we have a bit more luck. As I said, once you find them, they're such active birds, and especially while they're squawking and feeding. Okay. Now we're doing the stare into the trees. Come on, squawk again. Hop about. Of course they go silent now. So back terminalia. There's one far to the right. There, he flew. Land close, land close. That's it. Oh, much better. Oh, there we go. See, using the terminalia seeds. Hello, brown-headed parrot. So as I said, once you find them, they're so wonderful to watch. You see, he's going to pick a seed now, and I think if I go forward a little bit, Vim. I know he's coming around. So you can see how he uses his beak to take off the outer casing, the winged casing of the terminalia seed to just get the good part in the middle. Let me just try and move forward like a meter, Vimpy. How's that?
Yeah.
There we go. That's the one. You can see the nice green lower body now. And when it was landing, you might have seen the yellow flashes under the wing as well. No, man. Come. We're trying to see what you're doing. Stop hiding. There we go. There we go. See how it turns that seed out around inside his beak, takes off the winged section that is made for dispersal, and just eats the goodness in the middle. I really like parrots. Now, this is a brown-headed parrot. Wisteria conures do not occur in Africa. It is a parrot. A brown-headed parrot. Now, like a lot of parrot species, they're very, very sort of nomadic in terms of food availability. So sometimes you can have a lot of them around, other times you can have none. So they move quite frequently. Now, what's always interesting about lots of different animals and evolution, how certain things will evolve specially to deal with them. So, brown-headed parrots have a species of feather louse, a parasitic feather louse, that is only occurs on brown-headed parrot. It is called the Mimimanonopon zimputai, sorry. Miminamenon zimputai. That's quite a mouthful, I won't lie. Oh, bottoms up. Now, they're not well known to mimic any other birds, Daniel and Carol, and they're not kept as pets. It would be very cruel to keep them as pets, and so they don't speak, or no one's ever tried to make them speak. And they are monogamous pairs as well. They do occur in flocks while foraging, but generally you will find them in pairs. Oh, look at that lovely green now as the sun comes out. Now, keeping parrots in cages is very, very cruel, and birds deserve to be wild. Oh, he's disappearing down. So the keeping of parrots in cages is very cruel. They are highly social animals, and they need stimulation from other parrots, not from people. People keeping parrots is good for it benefits the person. It has no benefit to the bird whatsoever. And for every bird in a cage, in a pet shop or anywhere, at least 1,500 have died within the illegal pet trade. And everyone has the argument, oh no, but mine comes from a breeder. Okay, so but where did your breeder get their parrots from? It is absolutely horrific. It's probably one of the most evil things in the world to keep birds like parrots, or any bird for that matter, locked up in a cage for your own benefit. Anyway, rant over. Sorry, Bex, I was ranting. Who am I linking to? Oh, to the cat, the spotted cat, the Tristan.
Oh my goodness, what has somebody fed Brent today? He seems as though he is in full form and causing all kinds of hassles. But anyway, Brent has finished his ranting. Hosana is, well, being Hosana, he is as flat and as sleepy as one could imagine. He's rolled over, but he's just digesting and having a very easy start to his day. The nice thing for him is that it's fairly overcast this morning now. It was started as a beautiful clear morning, but a bit of cloud cover has come in, and that means that he's going to have a situation where he's going to be able to rest and relax in the same spot. But watch how he's breathing. You can see the grass stalk in front of his nose there that's moving. Luckily, it doesn't bounce back too far, otherwise it's going to tickle his nose, and that's going to cause him probably to get quite uncomfortable. But it's funny just watching it kind of moving as he's breathing. You can see he's breathing quite hard and quite fast, and that's all just because of the amount of food in him. It's got nothing to do with how hot it is this morning. It's not actually that warm at all. It's a situation where he's got this huge amount of protein that's inside of him, which is, one, is going to be increasing his body heat, trying to digest it, and two, obviously pushing up against his lung system and making sure that he's not taking as much air in as normal, and that's why he's going to be breathing slightly faster and harder than he would normally do. But it's amazing actually how hard they breathe. If you had to sit there and maybe put your face in the same place and actually breathe out to move a piece of grass that much is a big deep breath. So he seems to be coping with his full tummy fairly well. But I'm interested to see where he goes from here. His normal kind of movement from this area would be to probably go north towards Djuma. So I wonder if he's going to head up into the sort of southeastern corner of Djuma again, maybe back towards Twin Dams. And I'm very interested to see what winter brings in this area, because we're going to have a situation now. Our leopard dynamics are all up in the air, as we've discussed quite a few times and we've made mention of. But at the moment, there's so much water and sort of kind of food that's spread around, and that the amount of contact between them, even though we've seen a lot, is not nearly as much as what we should see in the winter months. As soon as water starts to become a precious resource, it's going to be very interesting to see what actually happens. Hosana last year was a treehouse Twin Dams cat. We used to find him there pretty much all the time, and if he wasn't at those two, then he was here at Chitwa. And so it's going to be interesting if he goes back into that routine and kind of follows that, or is Hukamuri going to be around? Is this new male going to be around? I don't really know. It's going to be a fascinating couple of months as all the leopard drama unfolds. What I'm also quite interested to see is whether or not Hukamuri and Hosana eventually kind of push each other, and whether or not Hosana disappears. So Sharon, it's very simple, is that at the moment, obviously the grass is so long that spotting any bone, let alone that of a leopard, is very difficult. And Sharon, if you look at, I don't know if you saw yesterday morning with the elephant carcass, just how much that elephant carcass has been broken up and moved around. Now that's an animal that is 5 tons, let alone a sort of 40-50 kilogram female leopard, that if she's died by kind of force in terms of another predator that's potentially eaten some of them, I mean, that leopard would be cleaned up in the space of half an hour if vultures come down, and the bones then can be scattered all over the place in a space of a very short period. And so you end up making it very difficult to find. You must also remember that the bones of a leopard are not massive. It's not like you've got this huge kind of rib cage and spine. Yes, there will be those kind of things, but those will be broken up by hyenas very quickly and moved and shifted around. And so in conditions like this, when the grass is very long, it makes it quite difficult to be able to find carcasses and to be able to see where they were. And also, like I say, they get dragged off and moved around all over the place, and that's what makes it hard. So unless you know exactly where the tracks go and you find, an animal busy feeding on it, or there's a situation where there's vultures and you go to that spot, if you don't find it for the first 2-3 days, you won't find very much at all. You might find a skull somewhere, but it's like finding a needle in a haystack. You think about how difficult it is to spot these guys when they're alive. Now imagine just trying to find their bones spread out in these kind of areas. It becomes incredibly difficult from any animal, let alone just these guys. Right, let's see, a vehicle is approaching, so I want to see if maybe he's going to pop his head up. It doesn't seem like he's going to. It seems as though he's going to just stay asleep even though another vehicle is approaching. And can I see his paws are kind of kneading at the ground every now and then. So funny how similar he can be to domestic cats sometimes. He does all these kind of motions, but just now he was kind of kneading the ground with his paw. He was just kind of pushing and kneading, and sort of working the ground a little bit, but I don't know if we're going to see too much more from Hosana this morning. I don't think he's going to be too awake. We'll give it a little bit more time and just see if maybe something changes. And while we do that, let's send you back to Taylor, who's got, well, some of the most active insects we have out here.
Ants. We've always got ants, and they're very hard at work pulling a caterpillar to pieces. I don't know what happened to this caterpillar, what caused its death. Perhaps it was the ants, perhaps something squashed it. We will never know. All we know is that the cleanup crew got here first, before we could come and investigate and find out who the real criminal was. There's a couple of ants that are now curious about the camera. It looks like they're trying to bite it, actually. There might be one that crawls up on the lens at some point. I've just seen a couple of them sort of going in. Can you see them there? Oh, you can't see them. They're so funny. They obviously are feeling as though the camera is maybe a little bit of a threat and coming to investigate. But once they realize that we mean no harm, they'll just carry on with their day. And look at the big chunks of caterpillar that they're pulling off. It's like it's a big gummy bear that's been sitting in the sun for too long, and it's sort of melted into itself. That makes it a little bit easier. And like we always say, these pugnacious ants will completely devour the carcass very, very quickly. Very, very quickly indeed. Eat, 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 pull, pull, pull. We've been seeing them hard at work lately. Not only the hyenas and the vultures taking care of the elephant carcass, but we've got the ants cleaning up the smaller things too. And then there's something else I want to show you. But we've got to go for a little bit of a walk. So I'm going to just try and find it again. Are you still here? Yes, you are. Come and have a look how beautiful. It's a nymph of one of the grasshopper species. Can you see it? There. Feasting on a leaf, tucking into a large fruited bush willow. Well, the owl's in the way. I'm just trying to watch. Now, we don't actually see grasshoppers and caterpillars feeding that often. I think they always stop when we find them. This one is not hanging around though, or not waiting around. It is going to make the most of that delicious leaf. And locusts and grasshoppers can eat lots and lots and lots and lots, which is why they're considered to be such a big pest, because they'll go through areas and completely decimate trees and crops. Especially out here, we don't find them too much of a pest. Of course, there's no crops around. We're not, upsetting any of the farmers. They're just doing their bit at gnawing away. And then, of course, they're very important to all the birds and to anything that eat insects out here. And there are plenty of animals that like to eat delicious insects. Very cool. It's so pretty, though, in green. I was actually looking at it, going, I don't know what it's going to turn into. I don't know, but it's very hungry. Very, very hungry. What else have we got here on this tree? Let me have a little... Go away, flies. Terrible flies today. They're really quite annoying. I thought we were going to get lucky and I was just going to spot all the content on this tree. It does not seem to be the case today. You know what we did see earlier on, which was quite cool? It was difficult to get a view of it, though. I was a crab spider that had sort of built itself a shelter out of sawtooth lovegrass. It was really quite cool. It sort of brought the grass seeds in like a little bit of a cup like that. And crab spiders, obviously, they don't use a web to catch their prey. They're actively hunting. But it used a little bit of silk just to sort of string everything together. And it was sort of sitting inside. It was quite cool. It was too small of a gap to try and have a look at it. So lots of little things. So perhaps not all of the holes that we're seeing on the leaves are because of the caterpillars. But maybe a few more of them because of all the nymph grasshoppers that we're seeing at the moment. Where are the insects? I'm enjoying looking at all the insects. Oh, I couldn't find which weevil it was we had the other day that was playing dead. It definitely wasn't a darkling beetle. I had a proper look. It's one of the weevils, but I'm not sure which one. The insect book I have, I don't know how in-depth it actually is, so I'll keep trying to search for that specific one. I did actually take a picture in a video, so I can try and find it eventually. But it was quite a big one, though. Oh my goodness, from a sleeping cat with a full belly, it seems as though Hosana's youth is, well, playing on his side now. He's up and on the move.
Well, he was on the move and he's just found himself a shadier spot than what he was in. But at least he's up and kind of looking around and grooming himself. It's far more activity than what we've seen from him over the course of the morning so far. But he's really now found himself a perfect spot for a nap. There's a bit of dark, damp soil there that he's going to be able to lie on, which will be cool after the rains that we've had. And then he's got himself a nice bush that's going to shade him for most of the day today. He'll be able to get in underneath there and should be really nice and sort of comfortable for his day that he's going to have. So very, very nice for him. Yes, we're talking about you, mister. Are you a happy cat today? Cool weather, full tummy. Doesn't get much better than that if you're a leopard, I don't think. I don't know, what else would you think you would ask for? Maybe some friends. We know Hosana likes to have friends and likes to kind of be able to spend time with Dad. Maybe you'd want to have some dad time today. Either way, he looks as though he's a comfortable cat, and I don't know how long his comfort is going to last, because that sun that's starting to come out behind the cloud has got some vengeance to it, and so I think he's going to, unfortunately, have a uncomfortable hot day to deal with when he's got that full tummy. The nice thing, though, about cats is that they digest quite quickly, so you can see that his tummy, while it is full, is not that bad, and by this afternoon it will look as though he could already start hunting again. What is very, very, very cool to see now that he's actually popped his neck up, do you see his little dewlap that's starting to form? Look, there it is. You see that? So he's starting to get a little dewlap. So Sassy, you were actually commenting on how nice and big he's getting. He is starting to kind of fill out, isn't he? He's always been a stocky character, and he's never going to be a monster in terms of his size. Well, I don't think he'll ever be Anderson size, but he's definitely going to be a stocky individual, and he's going to, I think, have a similar build to what Hukumuri's got. So be very wide around the chest area, and he's going to be kind of big head and neck like Tingana's got, but he's not maybe going to have the same sort of height that you see from Anderson. So it's going to be interesting, though, to see how much he develops. He certainly does well at feeding himself, and so if he's growing, he's providing enough nutrients to cause massive amounts of growth. He constantly seems as though he's full. In fact, I don't think I've seen Hosana looking in a skinny state at all. He generally looks pretty good whenever we see him, and so he's figured out adult life pretty well. And I mean, the fact that he's been on his own for a year now will be a good sort of measure of how well he's actually sort of done, and how he's able to have worked out how to hunt him. And we know, oh, there we go. Oh, you're tired, boy. Okay. So, I mean, to the fact that he's able to hunt things like big impala rams and those kind of things and be successful is really, really good news. The only thing I don't think he's mastered too much just yet is warthogs. I think he's still trying to figure that out, and that'll come with size. You know, the male leopards, when they get big, really start to kind of hit warthogs a little bit more. Now, catbrag, the dewlap is not fat, it's just skin that grows out, basically, so you can see it's very kind of wobbly, and if they move and shake their head, it's just basically skin that moves around. Now, I'm sure there might be a fat element to it on the sebaceous layer of the skin, but I don't think it's a fatty kind of object. It's not like it's a storing of fat or anything like that. Remember that fat, if it was somewhere where it was stored, it would be utilized when this animal has no food, because fat will be burnt for the body to basically survive, and that dewlap then theoretically would disappear. But we know with Tingana that even when he was really skinny and he was really struggling, that his dewlap remains. So it's just a skin element that grows out a little bit, and there really is very little kind of fat within that dewlap itself. So it's not because he's overeating that he's getting his little dewlap. It's just part and parcel of becoming a mature individual, and a dominant, well, not a dominant, but a sort of aging male leopard. He'll start to kind of develop it, and I wonder how big it's going to get. Is he going to have a really big one, or is he going to be like Hukumuri, that's almost got a non-existent dewlap at the moment? Jared's buddy, there must be some element of hereditary kind of dewlaps, so that the dewlap develops according to what they kind of genes they've got in them. That's the only real thing it can be, because There's a lot of different males that you get out here, and some get really monstrous dewlaps and others don't. You look at Anderson, for example. While he has one, it's not as big as what Tingana's is. Even though Anderson is a bigger leopard, he hasn't developed a huge dewlap. It's just a big neck that he's got and shoulders. So there must be some sort of genetics involved with the dewlap growing and getting bigger, and obviously different males have different sizes. So much like they are different sizes in terms of their body, so their dewlap varies according to probably genetics that they've got. So given that he's got Tingana's genetics, theoretically he should have a bigger dewlap at some point. So, Gillian, I thoroughly agree with you. It's too bad that a dewlap in humans is not admired as much, because that starts to happen to some people. And so, it's amazing how people try and get it fixed, and many people do all kinds of things to try and keep their faces looking young, whereas in the leopard world, that makes them look better and more attractive. It's pretty strange how things have changed. Well, not changed, but how different animals see beauty in different things, I suppose. It's much like, imagine warthogs. That's the bigger the sort of growths on the face, the more attractive he may be. Anyway, right, now it sounds like Brent has maybe gone a bit around the bend and a bit loopy, because he's apparently staring at soil in the ground, and I wonder what he's looking at.